Yo,
Hello.
hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good to hear.
Pretty nice day today, so I'm happy about that. Just trying to get started for the day. All right, so can you maybe do a quick introduction for the chat and just like how long you've been playing, what your goals for the game are, maybe where you're from?
Oh yeah. My tag is Chill, but my name is Nick. But I like Chill, so you can call me Chill. And I started like when PM came out. That's when I started realizing what Melee really was, and then that's kind of when I joined. And then like
So wait, so
late
when was that?
2016,
Like 3 or 4 years ago, or
2015, right,
20?
or
Okay, okay.
2016.
Yeah,
But
bad
after
timeline.
2016. I had like no one to play. It felt like I couldn't find anybody, especially my age. I felt like really young. So I stopped playing when I got to college, but I recently picked it up a year ago, like exactly a year ago, and it's been lit. So
Okay,
yeah, I'm like I want to be
sick.
good. My goals, I guess, is like I have a bunch of sub goals, but I'm trying to be the best, like for real.
Okay,
So
all right, sick.
yeah.
All right, thanks. That helps a lot.
Mhm.
Okay. And like, do you have VODs to go over?
Yeah. So I have like three games with a Sheik player that I consider a little bit less of a little bit, I guess, worse. I don't know how else
Mm-hmm.
to say it. And then I have Fods with a Falco that I consider a little bit better than me. They're both in Houston, and the Falco is PR'd and the Sheik isn't. So that's like kind of the for context.
Okay. And how much time do you feel like you want to dedicate to like practicing?
I like try to dedicate like at least 2 hours a day.
Okay.
I would love to bump it up to three, but I do a lot. Like I do have work and all that.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. So just send me the Slippy or the VODs or whatever.
okay, I can just send it over Discord, right?
I'll try to go over like generally like where you're at in the game and what you can where you can go, and then maybe we'll go over a good thing to practice for now or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of what I was thinking. I just want to. I feel like I've gotten a lot better over the year. Like in 2016, I was just a kid and I didn't really understand anything. But then this past year, I've like learned a lot about how like this game actually plays out. So I've been trying to like reach that. Like I said, like I have sub goals. Like my definitely like number one sub goal is like I just want to play at the top level. I think it's gonna be like so much fun
Mm-hmm.
because there's just so
It
much
is playing at the
like
top
in
level of this
melee.
game is extremely fun.
Yeah, so I can't wait. But this is the sheet games. I sent three sheet games,
Okay.
and
So you just want me to just take a look at it in general and talk
yeah,
about it?
like
Okay.
yeah, just in general, like you don't need to like psychoanalysis every situation. I guess for this lesson,
Mm-hmm.
so like just
Just
I just
more
want
to
a
see like where
general
you're at. Yeah,
exactly,
what's up, Flinchy?
exactly.
How you doing?
And then the second set is the Falco Falco games, Falco
So,
Ditto.
so this is something really small, and I'm not gonna like harp on this a lot or anything. But every
Okay.
single wave dash you've done so far has been 1 frame late.
Oh, oh, I have like a different rhythm. Oh no. Okay.
Yeah,
Wait,
like
wait.
literally
Am I
every
supposed to be
single
watching
one.
the?
And I wasn't gonna mention it, but like you see, like these you're doing. Actually, I mean that one wasn't. But like, watch
Wait,
like
hold on. I don't
so.
have your stream open.
Oh,
I thought we
oh,
were
oh,
gonna
oh,
like
my,
screen
my,
share.
my bad. Sorry. Sometimes I think I already started Discord screen sharing
Oh,
because I
okay.
went to Discord to open it, and in my brain I had already started screen sharing. So,
Okay, let's
all right.
see.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Sometimes I just messed that up. Okay, so it's like that one.
Okay,
So
I
let me
see it.
see it.
Yeah.
I think it's right.
It's like after I back air, and
Yeah.
then I go forward, and then I wave dash back.
Yeah, that one. It's when you can see yourself like come off the ground a little bit. That one
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that
And
yeah.
then it and I wasn't really gonna mention it. I was like, huh, that's interesting. But then when you go over here and you wave dash again after this, then this one was this one was frame late also. And you'll
Okay.
still get the wave dash if you're a frame late, but it's not nearly as good.
Mm-hmm.
So, just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Okay. So far, a lot of your decision making has been really good, though. I like it a lot.
I think I do pretty well. I actually like this is like recent, I guess. It's because I've been watching your other lessons.
Oh,
So like
sick.
I've been kind of intaking all your other lessons, and so I feel like my spacing has just generally gotten a lot better. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
decision making, if that's what you see.
So, yeah, something small. I'm just gonna go over kind of a couple of small things while I'm like looking at it
Mm-hmm.
in general. But
Mm-hmm.
these back airs, they feel like they're safer, but they're not actually safe. Like he could have just shield grabbed you. Like it feels like, oh well, he's on the ledge and he's coming back, and I can just like back air safely from here. But that's
Mm-hmm.
not really like what you should be doing. You should just like continue playing the game normally, except he's in the corner, so he can't dash back.
Okay.
Like you should continue doing like whatever you were doing like normally of like the dash dance and lasers and grabbing and the shine grab and all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
the walling back air is like if you wouldn't do the walling back air in center, it's not that good here.
Okay.
Yeah, just do stuff like that, like the dash back, down air punish and stuff. So yeah, so most of your decision making so far has been pretty good. So I'm really happy about that. You haven't been doing anything super glaringly wrong, like in terms of basic style. There's that same wave dash again. Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely actually is something to work on.
Okay, cool. See, that's what I mean. Like, I would never have seen that, you know?
And then, but yeah, it's funny because it's just interesting, like how doing something for so many hours or whatever, like gives you that sensitivity. Where like just looking at it, I'm like, oh, the wave dash is it's like
Yeah,
so
for
funny to
sure.
me thinking about that. Like no matter what anybody does, if you put that many hours, you just see all these little things. Okay, wait, yeah, wait,
Yeah,
why are
this
you
was,
transforming stadium?
well, we were like playing live.
Hmm,
Yeah.
I almost forgot the stage existed.
Yeah, this was like rough. This, like, yeah, and then he just stayed up there. And I
Oh
was
man,
like,
I
okay.
can't believe we used to have to do this. It was
Yeah.
sad.
One of my main friend that like plays with us, he just likes, he thinks it's gonna go back and stuff, so like he plays on it, and it was his setup. So yeah, I can see like how the back air is unsafe.
Yeah, those are
Uh-huh.
yeah, those are definitely not what you want. If you're gonna do a back air like that, just short hop and late back air because like
Hmm. Yeah, I
the
saw a Ginger video about that.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
the late back air is much better, and it's very difficult for people to see coming. And then a lot of times, if you do the late back air, you can short hop up, and then if you decide, like let's say you short hop up to do the back air, they wave dash back, you can just turn around, no fast fall laser.
Oh, okay. So
Like
yeah, so you have to
you're
dash
leaving
back
because you're leaving your
instead.
options open rather than like
Yeah.
committing to the back air. And most of the time, like if the Sheik was gonna like nair out a shield or something instantly, the back air won't really protect you anyway. Like doing the late back air is just better.
Okay.
Wow, you can mid shorten too. Okay, nice. Ooh, good pressure. I actually really like just like the general approach you have to Falco. There's something you keep doing right here. What is this? Hmm. Yeah, it's okay.
I thought that was really good, but I also
There's
missed the laser.
doing what?
Yeah, like how he came in, or how the she came in on my double jump like this. I thought that was really
Yeah,
good.
that was really good. So, a bit of an issue with analyzing this matchup is that you're overall doing like this matchup is fairly basic if the Sheik
Mm-hmm.
doesn't play too platform oriented. And because
Mm-hmm.
the Sheik is down to fight you on the ground, you're just sort of like repeating the same winning situations over and over,
Mm-hmm.
which is not your fault, but that's kind of just like what's happening.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
This is a movement you should try to pretty much entirely remove from your game plan that I've seen you do a couple times so far, which is, so this jab was fine. So he's shielding right here. Doing this dash dance is okay because you're trying to bait him out of shield. But then this wave dash back, notice that it was also a frame late. Doing this wave dash back is not useful because like what does this wave dash back do? You know?
Yeah.
So he's in
Yeah.
shield, so wave dashing back here does nothing but give him free frames to get out of shield.
Oh, okay. Dang, I really do that. Like I really do that a lot. I know I do.
Yeah, the dash in,
Yeah,
dash away,
dash
dash
in, and
in.
then wave dash back. I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm. And it's just with Falco, it's like this isn't as true with a lot of other characters, but with Falco, I talk about it a lot. Like you don't want any wasted movement because Falco doesn't really have safety. He's always playing at the very edge of dying, no matter what percent he's at. And so, because any decision you make could be the wrong one and you could die, you want the decisions that you do make to be, like, as economical as possible. There are plenty of other characters in the game who can just sort of do things, and, like, if those things don't put them into a bad spot, then it's fine. But with Falco, not only does doing more actions increase your chances of messing up, but it also gives your opponent more chances to find like a weird way to like beat what you're doing. And so you want, try, if you're analyzing your own VODs, to look for waste and look for ways that like, oh, I did this wave dash, but this wave dash like totally gave up the threat I had. Or there's a lot of other applications of it, but we'll look for it in a second. Now your wave dash is fine. That one was slow, but I'll stop bringing it up. But it's just jarring. It's jarring.
No,
It's jarring to see it.
No, you bring it up. You bring it up.
Well, it's just because like we can both see it. So it's let me show you like what it looks like.
Yeah, it's like when he gets off the floor.
So it's when you see Falco leave the ground for a frame, like this, and then come back down. You really want to avoid that. It should look like he never leaves the ground.
And I guess we can talk about how to practice that like later for sure.
That's definitely something you should practice.
Yeah.
And before the end of the lesson, I'll explain like what I think is the most effective way to practice.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're not going to talk about the transformation stuff. Oh, so this is a minor point. It hasn't really been like a problem for you, but like I said, there's not too much to talk about in this game. But because you've just been kind of you're like, hey, play a good situation for Falco with me, and your opponent's kind of like, okay, and then you win because it's a good situation for Falco, and it's like, yeah, good job, and bad job to the Sheik.
Okay.
But so there's this spot which is really tempting to autopilot approaching laser, but the thing is, Sheik never dashes back. Sheik is not a dash back character, and so approaching laser is like universally bad against her.
Okay.
Because the reason for approaching laser is to beat your opponent for dashing back to avoid your aerial.
Yeah,
like Fox and Marth will do that, but Sheik will just hold her ground and F tilt, and it'll just beat this every time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she does. Yeah, like you're just kind of repeating the same setups. That'd be one thing I would say that it's a little bit like if I was playing you and you were doing this, I would start, and the Sheik kind of does punish this, but so one thing would be, so dashing back is a very good mix-up, and I think it's, especially against a character like Sheik or Marth, it's like definitely like the best option. But in Melee, just because something is the best option doesn't mean you should do it, because it's predictable. So let me think of how to describe it. So basically, like, you know, the doing the best option is to. So not only, so like I said, everything is punishable, right? So even if you do the best option, it is still punishable if they know you're going to do it. And so what you want to do, ideally, is you want to create like a sort of system of mix-ups and tricks where you are trying to do the good things as often as possible without your opponent knowing when you're going to do them. And so probably the most basic way to at least solve this situation and sort of see the other half of the game is to dash in after about half your lasers.
Okay.
So, why are you dashing back after a laser? Can you explain that to me?
I dash back because I feel like it gives me room to react. But it just feels safer, I guess, than dash forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of scared as Falco to dash forward. I also do believe that, like, yeah, since I was able to like win off rinse and repeat, that I didn't feel like I needed to change up my game either, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, that is like I feel like to beat him harder, I would have to mix it up. So I understand what you're saying and all. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
dash back probably because I'm scared of dashing forward because I guess I don't really understand reaction points either. I guess that's a good topic we can go over
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
Because
This is
like
definitely
I don't
something.
know I don't know all the reaction points like at all. Like I'm, a year in, like there's definitely
Yeah.
still
No,
a lot that
you're in a great spot for a year, and even though you started a while ago, but that
I don't count
doesn't
that.
really count too much.
I don't count that. But this year has been like, yeah, it's just like actually my true form this year. So, um, yeah, so there's like a lot of, I guess that's why you're saying dash in, right? Because I could probably do the same reaction, even dashing in, or what?
Okay,
What do you think
so
that?
okay, yeah, this is like a good point to cover, I think. So, and I've gone over this in some other lessons too. I'm surprised
I
if you've been
think,
watching
no,
them. I'm
I know. I
surprised.
think I saw it in someone's play, Falco versus Puff. I think it was the Falco versus
Hmm.
Puff Bob, maybe. And then you
Okay.
were like, you need to dash forward.
All right. Well,
But
yeah. Well, let's go over it again anyway.
yeah.
It's because it's
Mhm.
probably like the central concept of Falco, and like it'll sort of unlock a lot about the game for you in general.
Mhm.
Okay, so after you've lasered, you've set up. Assuming he doesn't shield, he might shield, whatever. Regardless, you've set up a situation for yourself where you kind of know what's going on with your opponent in the sense that you know they're going to be like here because the laser is doing something to them. Either they're shielding the laser or they're getting hit by the laser, so you know where they are. And where they are is what okay, so what is the thing that like what is the most basic thing that you would want as Falco? Like let's say your opponent isn't shielding and you laser them at this range. What is like the most basic threat you have?
Like short hop in there.
Yeah, short
Or
hop
like
nair,
there.
short hop downer. So you have a
Yeah.
short hop aerial in.
Yeah.
So everything your opponent does is going to be countering the short hop aerial in. That is like the first step is like if your opponent doesn't cover aerial in after laser, then they end up as one of those like low level players that just hates Falco because every Falco just
Mhm.
lasers and aerials in, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know what to do, and so I get hit with the aerial in afterward, and then that doesn't actually, like, you don't get to play the game if you
Mhm.
can't beat laser aerial in.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what? So if your opponent is going to try to do something after this to try to beat aerial in if they think you're going to aerial in, because the key is if you don't ever aerial in after this laser, your opponent can stop covering it. And your
Mhm.
opponent can get away with options which are greedier because they know you're not going to do it. And so like, maybe you're right here and then you laser them, they shield. If they think you were going to aerial in, they would probably wave dash back or keep shielding here. But
Mhm.
like if they have this feeling that man, every time he lasers my shield, he dashes back, then maybe they'll wave dash in, and then when you dash back, then you try to dash back laser, and they dash attack you, and then they get
Mhm.
you in this whole combo. So what you want to do is you want to convince your opponent first and foremost, and obviously there's layers to this and it goes down a bunch of different rabbit holes, but to keep it simple, you want to provide your opponent with some sort of like reassurance that you are indeed going to down air in or nair in. So if you don't give them any sort of reassurance or like anything to react off of, if you laser, you dash back every time, they know that you're not going to do it. And so the dash in with Falco is, so with a lot of characters, dashing in is to take space, but Falco's dash is so tiny that he's not really taking any space. It's real, like he'll take like a half character length forward or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's so you were saying you're not really sure about reaction points. So the idea is your opponent is not able to react to, like, for instance, like the startup of down air or something like that. So what they're going to be looking for is what precedes the down air or what precedes the nair. So what precedes a dash in nair?
The dash in.
Right? Okay, so sorry. What's the very immediate thing that precedes the nair?
The short hop.
Yeah, the jump squat frames.
Yeah, the jump squat.
So the jump squat frames is oftentimes something people will try to look for to judge whether your character is about to start jumping. And so, but the thing is when you jump squat, they don't know that you're going to aerial because you might also be doing a laser or you might be doing a wave dash. The wave dash isn't really threatening here, so they're not going to worry about that. Either you're going to be dashing and then... regardless of... Don't think about the dash yet. You're going to be lasering or you're going to be aerialing. And so if you haven't dashed, then and you enter jump squat from right here, there's no way for your aerial to hit them. And so the only option you have if you just jump in place right here with no dash is a laser. That's the only option you really have to, like, go after them. Because you could do a down air in place here, but then if they just wave dash down, now you're at like a bit of a disadvantage because you're in the down air lag and they're in neutral. So that's not really like what you're looking for, and so you don't really want to just jump in place right here because your opponent will see the jump squat with no dash and they know that they're safe. They know there's nothing you can do to actually hurt them. And they might not consciously realize this, but while you're playing the game subconsciously, you'll see this little jump squat and you're like, wait a minute, he's not dashing. So the idea of the dash in first is when you dash in, your opponent sees the dash, and then a lot of times especially if you're closer, and a lot of times the dash in provides this, if you dash into like here, and if they try to react to the jump squat, it might be a little too late. So, like, they want to react as early as possible to something happening. And so a lot of times the dash in is enough to convince your opponent that you are about to dash in aerial, or at least it provides, like, enough direction that, like, you're at least providing the threat of dash in aerial, even if you don't do it. Like, if you dash in here, even if you don't do the jump squat, you're putting yourself in a position where you're about to jump aerial at them, or you could, and so they have to generally react to that more often than if you don't do the dash in. So the dash in is a communication to your opponent that you are capable now of down airing in or nairing in. And the jump squat, while useful in some cases, like if you start doing it without a dash, after the dash, it's really difficult for them to, like, react to that on time. And so most of the time, especially at close range, they will use the dash in. And so what you can do is you can dash in, because you said you want to wait and, like, react to your opponent, right?
Yeah.
So if you laser dash back and your opponent wave dashes down in place, you can't actually, like, react and punish that at all. Because you created a bunch of space, and also you you didn't threaten the down air in. So if you dash in here, they have to respect the possible down air in, and so if you dash in, dash away, there's a way higher chance that they will do an action that they're not gonna. No one sees a Falco dash in and wave dashes in towards the Falco because they're just going to get hit by the early aerial.
Yeah.
And so basically the dash in is a threat of that, and then so you're creating a situation where your opponent needs to react to what you're doing. And that's why the dash in is so good.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And so the dash back. Oh, it's getting a little warm in here. Okay, the dash back is the opposite, where you're not threatening. So the thing is, at this range, if he is shielding, I would never dash back because he doesn't really have any actual threats. If you just laser again really fast, the chance, I don't think he can really like wave dash in and forward tilt you. But you can go back here. It's not a problem. So the thing is this dashing back is the opposite of dashing forward, obviously. But it's the opposite in the sense that you are implying that you are definitely not going to aerial in. Whereas this threatens the aerial in, dashing back is like, okay, I am creating space. And so the dash back is like, the thing is you don't want to think of the dash back as defensive. Don't think about it that you are getting safe. Think about it that you are giving up space, even a little bit of space. You're like telling your opponent very directly, I am not going to attack you. I am going to defend myself for whatever reason. And you wouldn't want to do it here. And the reason for that is because dashing back and lasering, what are you defending yourself from? You are already at an aggressive advantage. So getting yourself at an aggressive advantage when they're shielding here and then saying, now try to approach me, doesn't make sense because it lets them get out of their shield for free. And so the dash back, let's say he doesn't shield this and he just stands here and he tanks it. Then a lot of times after this, if you don't, like, you know, it's a mix up here, you could still dash in, but he tanks the laser, and then by dashing back, what you're saying is, I think that you are about to like dash attack or like instantly attack me out of the laser. And so I'm going to create space and give you space to whiff your move so I can hit you, which is kind of like what was part of your thought process with going back and lasering. And so just like dashing in is trying to make your opponent deal with your approaching aerial threat, by dashing back, you're telling your opponent, I am preparing to deal with your approaching threat. And so your opponent can react to this in two different ways. They can react by literally standing here and waiting, which is pretty valid because by dashing away and lasering, you're not actually giving any threats to them. Or a really common option. And so basically, if you decide to create space with this laser and they just wait here, you haven't lost anything. Like it just maintains evenness. But if you dash away, and so here's where the dash away, dash in aerial comes in. Because when you dash away, let's say your opponent hasn't shielded, then let's say they dash in to cover the space to sort of take you up on this offer to approach you, then you can just dash in and aerial them. Or create the same situation where you dash away, they dash in, and they sort of, or wave dash in, they're taking some space, and then you do dash in, dash back. And then the dash in imply that you're going to aerial here, so they have to deal with that. So every time you do a dash, you have to think about what you are asking your opponent, what you are telling your opponent, and like what that implies for like which gameplay is sort of coming up. And so after the laser is the sickest thing because the laser gives you the control to do that. Normally in like a game, like let's say in a Fox Ditto where both foxes are dash dancing, it's very ambiguous which character is like the initiator. It's very ambiguous which character, like if did Fox A dash in, and then that made Fox B dash back to avoid the dash in, or did Fox B dash back, and then Fox A, took the space and dashed in.
Yeah.
And it's very ambiguous which one is happening. And that's a big part of the game in a lot of matchups. And the special thing about Falco, this is what makes Falco so broken, is that he is always the initiator because of the laser. Mm-hmm. The opponent always has to deal with the laser before they get to play the game. And so because they initially have to deal with the laser, then they have to deal with your follow-ups to laser. And so as Falco, you inherently have control of this match, and you should always be thinking you don't really have to, you don't really have to think about too much. Obviously, when you get to high level, you want to think about both anyway. But in general, Falco forces the opponent to react to what he's doing. And so every time you make an action, you want to think, what am I threatening here? And what might my opponent do to deal with this threat? Or what am I baiting here? And then if I dash back, can I get my opponent to dash in so I can approaching aerial them? Mm-hmm. And so you might do dash back laser, and then you dash in, and your opponent kind of stays in place and does a thing, and then you laser, and then you dash back again, and then your opponent takes some space this time because you just gave up a bunch of space for free last time, and then you dash back, dash in, aerial.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go more into that in a second, but that's sort of the basics of the mix-up between the dash in and dash back. And, you can tell that those are two very different, games or situations that, comes about. Two very different situations come about as the result of your choice to dash in or dash back.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can just play only one of those games, but you make it a lot easier for your opponent to play around, where it's your opponent has to react super differently to dash away and dash back. And so if you're okay, we'll play the dash back game. Okay, we'll keep playing it. Then your opponent's okay, how am I going to beat this guy's dash back game? But if you're all right, we're playing the dash back game. Just kidding, dash in game again, dash back game. Now your opponent has all these things coming at them from all directions, and you keep mixing them up and getting openings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any questions or you're confused about this at all, just let me know.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I kind of like the one line you said about how I'm in control. I guess I don't really have that sense of control right now, and I just learned those, so we'll see.
Yeah, that was good.
Probably just go to the Falco games. I think the games just keep going the same for the Sheik.
Oh, you want to keep doing the Sheik games?
No. I was saying you could probably go to the Falco because I feel the games are gonna be the same. So
yeah. Okay. Oh, I hate this glitch. Okay. All right.
I'm green.
Okay. So this is a good example of the concept. So you're here.
Mm-hmm.
You get the approaching laser on the Falco. He shields in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So what is he thinking here, and what are you thinking here?
Well, I'm thinking I want to knock him off stage and kill him. So what's the best way possible? That's kind of in my head, but while being safe. And I guess what he would be thinking, since he's Falco, is I'm trying to get out the corner. Really.
Right. So he wants. Okay, so those are very general goals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to want to kill your opponent, but you can't always be in the I must instant murder opponent mindset. And okay. So you as your ultimate goal, you do want to kill your opponent. I don't want to misstate that. It's very important to always be focused on what moves can I do that will eventually lead to my opponent's death.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just want to go for damage and stuff like that. But a really common option here after this laser might be to just run in and grab, because you're like, oh, I can forward throw him, and then maybe I get this gimp here. Mm-hmm. And then the Falco will actually get out of that a lot of times. He'll roll out. Mm-hmm. And then, so if you ran in for this grab, and then he rolls, what's the situation then?
Then it's like flipped, right?
Yeah, so now you're in the corner, and you're having a bad time. And so you don't want to create opportunities for your opponent to do that. Mm-hmm. So, let me see. So what you do here is you do this up tilt, which is okay. So you're here. In this situation, does your opponent have any way to punish dash in?
Probably not, because I'm at 0. So.
Well, do they have any way to punish dash in?
Regardless.
If you weren't at 0?
No, not at all. I mean, back here.
So they have literally no way to punish dash in. So in this situation, dashing back doesn't do anything, because remember, dashing back is all about trying to bait your opponent to come in. Mm-hmm. And dashing forward is all about threatening that you're going to do bad things to your opponent. Mm-hmm. So in this situation, if you can get away with a dash in, and remember, he is afraid here of dash in grab. That is like his biggest threat right here.
Yeah.
So if you can dash in, you are threatening the biggest threat, which is the grab, but you're not committing to any options, and you're keeping yourself safe. And if you get all those reasons together, like, that is a perfect situation. And so I would say you should dash in here basically every time, because he's shielding, he's facing backwards, he has nothing he can do to you here. Yep. And so by doing this dash in, you are getting to a position. So if you're here, and like I said, if you dash and you run over and you grab this Falco, then what was the point where he could react to you doing this? Well, I can just tell you. He reacted to you dashing here. And so he has all this time where you dash and you run and you grab. And he has this whole time period to react. Mm-hmm. But if you dash in right here and you're right in this position, and you haven't committed to the grab yet, he can't react to a decision you make from this position. And so this is something that is really common. A lot of players do. Albert is he does this super commonly. He does this probably too much, is he does the dash in here, and then he'll do a teensy dash back, and then dash in grab. And it's because by dashing in, he gets a chance to see if the opponent reacts to the dash in and rolls out, and then he can punish that. And then if the opponent doesn't do that, and you just dash in, and the opponent is still there, you get this dash back, and once again, you're closing the space, you're threatening. And then when you dash back, the opponent might still throw out an aerial, they might roll, you're covering both of those, and then you get to unreactively dash grab. So you're closing the space, you're threatening, you're still baiting these options, and then you can get in for like a grab. So that's sort of just like a breakdown of like one random situation where that comes up.
Yeah. There's a lot of times I missed that dash grab, so now I understand why. Mm-hmm. In general. Good. Yeah. Whoops.
So you really don't want to do grounded lasers? No, just kidding.
This one was on net play, so I don't know if like
it's not relevant.
It's probably the Falco matchup actually that's making me mess up. This matchup is kind of rough for me.
This is quite possibly the hardest matchup in the game. Like this matchup is incredibly ridiculous, and the truth is that the Falco matchup has some of the most room to push out of any matchup ever. Like in the game, like in the current meta, there is almost no matchup that can be pushed harder than this matchup. It has a huge amount of room to grow, and so there aren't a lot of like super correct or incorrect ways to play it. And so because of that, as a new player, you're trying to copy the best players, and there's not a lot of great info to go off of. Like you can't really copy the way that anyone plays it, because they all play it in kind of their own special way that utilizes their own strengths, and there's not like a lot of standardization across the board. So I wouldn't worry too hard about performing like extremely well in this matchup right now, because it's something that even at the top level is like incredibly inconsistent and not solved.
Okay.
But that's something that's kind of fun, because, you know, if you get really good, maybe you can be the one to solve the Falco matchup. So
Yeah, for sure.
And I could go into some specifics on this matchup where you really want the laser control and stuff like that, but so
I read Squid's document, like about all the Falco tech and stuff, and in the Falco Ditto, yeah, it said a lot about how to like take laser control and what beats what, and it's like it was really helpful.
whose document?
Squid.
Squid's document. Okay, I
Yeah,
haven't
Squid.
actually read that, but
It's really long. It's like really good.
yeah, sounds like it'd be pretty good. Okay, so here's a similar situation, and I think this is kind of the focal point for this lesson now, is because these sorts of things with like the dashing kind of happen over and over again. So you're right here, and you get this. So notice that this is that situation I was talking about earlier, where he sees you dashing in. He is in a very bad spot. And remember, so also here, if he doesn't insta back air out of shield, and you short hop in, you get a late nair pressure, which is like super scary for him. And so he has to worry about, in this position, he has to worry about your grab. He has to worry about your jump in late aerial. He has to worry about jump in laser pressure. Those are like his main three threats here. And honestly, grab isn't that threatening. It's a little bit threatening in this spot. He's still kind of close to the corner, but mostly he's worried about some kind of pressure. And his only defensive option here is to instant back air out of shield. And so you can sort of be aware of that. That's his only way to reversal you, because he's in a bad spot. He can maybe escape with like a roll to the corner or something, but he can't attack you without an instant back air. So I actually super approve of this dash in, because as we established, you have him in shield, he's facing backwards. He doesn't really have any options to like deal with this dash in. The same one as before. So the problem is that you know this, your opponent knows this. You both agree to this, and you say, "Hey opponent, I'm dashing in," which implies approaching laser, approaching aerial, or approaching grab. These are the things you are, or run and maybe shine. Run and shine the shield. You are threatening all of these things, so you can't just be like, okay, sick, I have an advantage situation, therefore I'm going to do my moves to capitalize on the advantage. Because what your opponent sees is, I am in a bad situation. I shielded this laser in a really dumb way, and I'm facing backwards. So what am I thinking as your opponent is, okay, how am I going to deal with their pressure? Because you want to pressure your opponent. Your opponent wants to avoid your pressure. And so you have to keep that in mind, because when you do this dash in, your opponent, when you do this dash in, you're saying, here comes the pressure, or here comes my attack. And your opponent also recognizes that. And that's this thing with reaction points, is when your opponent sees this dash, you're both on the same page here that you are coming in.
Yeah.
But when you come in and then you actually do what you said you're going to do, where you're like, here comes the pressure, and then you actually try to pressure here, this is why your opponent perfectly reads you with a spot dodge.
I see.
And it's like, man, how would he know that I was coming here? And it's like, because you dashed this whole time, he knew it, and he spot dodged because he believed you. You said, here I come, and he said, okay, I'll spot dodge it. And that's why when you're in these situations, doing everything up to the point of this dash was fantastic. Doing this, dashing in, this is so perfect, and it's perfect because this makes him want to spot dodge.
Yeah.
So then if you do this dash in and then you dash back and he spot dodges, then really quick, so when you go in like this and you do when you do like pressure on his shield, there is always some sort of inherent risk, because you are getting into a range where both of your moves could hit each other. There's like mix-ups, there's reads going on. You're kind of reading by doing this that he's gonna stay in shield. And then maybe he'll leave shield at the exact moment you shine, because that'd be nice. But, so what happens is, this is an advantage situation, but you still have risk for yourself. And so ideally, if you could play this game in a way such that you dash at your opponent, they spot dodge, and you hit them every time, you would win. You would JV5 your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, so that like a true like punish or like a whiff punish is like your opponent does something and you can get a combo on them without any risk to yourself. And so your goal is, first of all, to maximize the number of times that happens. Because you don't want to fight. Ideally, you do not want to fight. In an optimal world, you do not want to actually fight your opponent. If you could just beat your opponent and they could never do anything, that would be great. Mm-hmm. And so, as much as your opponent will allow you to, you want to get openings for free without any risk. And so that comes from, your opponent does a bad aerial on shield and you shine them out of it. That's nice. Mm-hmm. Your opponent messes up a recovery and you hit them out of it. You didn't have to do a mix-up. That's nice. So the mix-ups are sort of like, you get to the mix-up part of the game when neither player is giving free openings. But if you can get your opponent to give you free openings through small advantages, then because this is small advantage into big risk. Because what if you did this and then you got too close and they shined you?
Yeah.
Or you get too close and right here they down air out of shield and they hit you right here as you're trying to do this. Oh, suddenly you got comboed. But you're in an advantage. You don't really want to open yourself up to that. So by doing this dash back here, and he does a spot dodge, you go, that's great. Free opening. And you just down air in, you hit this, you get your big combo, and at no point were you risked. You were able to capitalize off of a small advantage in neutral with a clean opening with no threat to yourself. And if you can do that over and over, you'll just four stock the guy, and that is like how good players beat bad players.
Oh.
Like if I'm playing a pools match and I'm playing somebody who's really bad, what I do is I just provide threats, and then when they react to those threats, I punish them for it. And at no point was I ever in a situation where I was afraid of what they could do to me. Mm-hmm. Because I'm getting these tiny neutral wins using, superior tech skill and having years of experience. And I get these little neutral wins, but instead of using the neutral win and going in, and if you play mix-ups, and I've said this a bunch of times, but basically, if you play mix-ups, if you try to not trick, but actually get in there and fight players way worse than you, they're just going to randomly hit you, and it's not fun. It's not fun to get randomly hit by worse players. But if they are actually worse than you, you can get these tiny advantages and then use these advantages to sort of squeeze these bad defensive options out of people.
I like that. Okay.
And so that is your main goal. And you only don't do this when your opponent is either when you're in a dead even situation, and if you're in a dead even situation and your only possible options are to kind of put yourself in a worse position, that's when you might want to go for a true mix-up here. Your opponent, instead of doing this spot dodge right here, maybe he should have gone for that short hop backwards down air, because that does lose to some other things, but if you tell the truth, maybe he's right. So he has he has kind of a bad spot. He's in the corner. He's shielding. He has more of an incentive to go for a mix-up, in a risky mix-up here. Whereas you have more of an incentive to try to bait out a move and then just beat him up for it. And so your opponent repeats the same thing here, where your opponent gets the laser control, which puts them at a slight advantage, and then he makes the same sort of mistake of I'm gonna take advantage of my advantage by throwing out a move, and then this would have just lost to you shielding and shining out a shield because he high nairs you. So this is why. So look, you laser your opponent and then you go in. His defensive move beats it. He lasers you. He goes in with an early nair. All you have to do is shield this and you get a free opening. And he gets the early nair and he goes, yes, I created an advantage and I capitalized on it. But what he actually did was he created an advantage and then he played you on an even mix-up. And so that wasn't good by your opponent. And for the same reason as you don't want to play on an even mix-up when you just got an advantage in neutral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So this hat. Okay. Whatever this combo is, that was actually nonsense. Oh, what? What was this combo? Falco is ridiculous. Are you kidding me? This worked. Jump, double jump, shine, drop, up tilt? I'm sorry, I've just never seen that before. What a ludicrous combo. This character is not okay. Should be banned from tournaments. Flinchy's in chat like, dude. This is literally just nonsense. I'm so mad that works.
I should be more mad then.
So... So what happens here? So you play each other in an even mix-up here. And so, once again, if you can avoid an even mix-up, you don't want to play it. And so here, I get that this is very inherently an even mix-up. You're literally on the exact same frame. So you both decide to jump. Actually, he squats here. He didn't jump. So, but by doing this down air... It's like this down air beats him also immediately rushing into you. But if he just gives up a little space, then you're not safe.
That's like where the mix-up with the dash back comes in.
And so, exactly. This is kind of where you want to do the dash dance, because this is just sort of like, you just sort of let it rip. Yeah. And you're just like, here it goes, the mix-up. But that doesn't like, it doesn't stack any sort of like meaning on top of it. And so it's like, you know, what's trickier, you know, sort of, like, it's like, you know, like a stranger can lie to you, and you might not believe them, okay? Mm-hmm. But like, let's say you're friends with somebody, they build up trust for years, and then they lie to you, you're probably going to believe their lie. Mm-hmm. Kind of a messed up thing to do. Yeah. But you're probably going to believe them. And so that is kind of how this game works, is there's building up trust with your opponent of like kind of doing what you're saying you're going to do, of like, oh, so I'm here. And so you're like, okay, so I'm going to dash back. And so your opponent is like, okay, he's not attacking me. And so your opponent is like, maybe I can, you know, do something else. Let's say your opponent up tilts. And then you go, okay, so I'm going to dash in here. And your opponent goes, okay, here they go. But then this dash in is sort of like a lie. You know, like you have these movements that are just kind of there. And your opponent and you are sort of playing around them. Oh, I go here, you go here. This is sort of like our little neutral game that we do where like no one's really getting an opening. And then you go, okay, and now we're going to play this situation. And your opponent goes, okay, yeah, let's keep playing the neutral. And you go, aha, but now I lied to you, and we're actually playing this situation. Mm-hmm. But if right off the bat you just go for a situation, and the thing is, this isn't inherently a bad option by itself, but just sort of just going for it should be the lie. Or it should be the trick. Like, you should say, okay, during neutral, I want to keep myself safe. I want to stack my probabilities in my favor. You know, like, I want to play real neutral. And once you have convinced your opponent that you always want to play real neutral, then jumping in with this attack is actually strong because your opponent is watching to see which dash you do.
Yeah.
But until then, this is actually like the sort of shallowest option because you're not providing ways for yourself to get an advantage. Like you're not letting your opponent be dumber than you. Like if you don't give your opponent time and space to be dumber than you, then they're not gonna be, because they're just gonna always fight you on even ground. And it's like if you could whiff in rock paper scissors. So it's kind of like, if you are down to just play rock, paper, scissors, like, every time with your opponent, then, like, it doesn't matter how smart you are or how good you are, because they will always just kind of get, probability-wise, they will win the same amount of time as you will win. But what if you could say, rock, paper, and then they throw out their move, and they go, scissors, and they throw out their paper, and then you just put scissors out, and you beat them.
Yeah.
And
I saw that in
so
an anime, by the way.
that's really funny. So by providing opportunities for you to outplay your opponent and for your opponent to be outplayed by you, you are creating a and this is inherently why you've probably heard this before, that at ultra top level of pretty much every game in the world, the games get more defensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like fighting games in general, they always get more defensive at top level. It never tends towards, like, you're not like, well, noobs play really passive, and then when you get to the top level, all they do is just rush each other. Like that, there's no game where that exists.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason why is that by playing, not by playing defensively, but by not immediately resolving all tension, you're creating more space to outplay. And so what happens is when both players are trying to create this space to outplay, you end up with a little bit of a slower match. That's just why that concept comes up.
Yeah.
And so it's not that you should never do this, but generally you want to try to find opportunities to like extend the situation, extend the neutral a little bit, to develop more opportunity to outplay. Okay, so we're almost done, and so I want to focus on what you can do to sort of like directly improve as like a result of this lesson. So the first thing is, obviously when you're playing, I want you to dash in a lot more, and not dash in and approach, just dash in, dash back, and see what your opponent does. And then to also recognize that when you dash back, you can dash in aerial. You don't have to dash back and then take a defensive position. It's also like a threat of pretending to be defensive and then being aggressive. So that's probably like the main point to sort of keep in mind. And sort of like, there's generally, you can, like, if you keep this point in mind while you're playing, things will start opening up. Because it's sort of like a good direction to go to explore the game from. And you'll start seeing like, oh, when I dash in here, they're very likely to kind of do this. And you can sort of build your tree branches off of that. So I think at a basic level, when you're playing the actual game, that is the perfect way for you to go right now. Because your dash back into laser and that sort of thing, those are pretty solid. But you need to sort of embrace all mix-ups, because all the mix-ups that your character can do, if you do all of those together, you're inherently more confusing, because you're creating more possible situations that your opponent has to be able to deal with.
Okay.
So the less sort of not structured, you want to play structured, but you want to like add in more things to your repertoire, kind of.
Yeah.
So
Things that are like, it's still good. It's just like a different type of good. Like you said, it's like two different games that I put the situation in. So
so another thing that I think you should practice, I think there are two things based on this that I think you should practice. Obviously, wave dashing and wave shining. So I haven't really seen you do that pretty much like at all. Like, you haven't done like really clean wave shines or very clean like wave dashes. And so I think practicing maximizing the distance you can get out of a wave dash is really big. So like Falco dash wave dash. So dash wave dash goes further than just wave dash, because you slide a little bit during your jump squat frames. So dash wave dash is the fastest forward movement that Falco can do. And it's the way that you're going to be moving across the stage in a lot of situations where you just want to get from point A to point B. So, like, let's say you back your opponent off, and you're in center, and they're off stage, and you really want to get close. You want to get to the edge as fast as you can. You want to dash, wave dash.
Yeah.
And so, by practicing and getting clean, long wave dashes that are at the correct timing, you basically just add a, like, +2 speed factor to Falco, like, as a whole. And that will... Being able to move your character into different positions, obviously, will give you a big advantage. So I think that is like a really big one to do, because it'll sort of, your Falco is a little bit like, feels a little boxed in right now in terms of your movement. So I think doing those would be really good. You might want to write it down, or you can look at the recorded lesson later.
Yeah,
So doing the dash wave dashes and just practicing wave dashing and wave shining and trying to get as much distance out of the wave shines as possible. That's one.
yeah.
Another one is I want you to practice wave landing off the tips of platforms because I haven't seen you use that at all.
Mm-hmm.
So like jump up, wave land off, jump up here, wave land off, and just sort of do that. I think doing that is really, really good. And I think
Oh, sorry.
sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, no, it's okay. Go ahead. Sorry, this is my fault.
And I think practicing short hop. I mean, you've probably seen the Ginger video on like Sammy Nares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want you to practice those a little bit. I don't see that those are part of your repertoire yet in terms of like a threat. So I want you to sort of just move around, practice those. Practice those on like an infinite shield in 20XX or Uncle Punch. And so that would be those three things. I think are things that you could do that would help you improve tech skill wise a lot. I think the correct way to practice tech skill, and there are different schools of thought on this, but I think that very short tech skill practice sessions. So like when you play the game in like a tournament or something like that, the way it works is you're hanging out with your friends, whatever, you're chilling, you got some food maybe, you show up, you maybe get like one game to warm up, if that. A lot of times they just send you over, oh, go play on that TV. And you just have to go over to the TV and you have to play instantly. And you play for about 10 to 15 minutes and then you stop. And that is because you know you're into like music, you know, that is like your performance. And it's like however you are going to perform your music is how you want to practice your music. If you're doing an hour-long concert, you should probably be practicing for like an hour, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so it's similar in this where melee sets are about 10 to 15 minutes. And so I think the perfect length of time to practice, if you are solo practicing, and you're not like labbing, I'm talking about straight tech skill practice, these things we mentioned, I think you should practice for about 10 to 15 minutes. And so what you want to do is you want to mimic the tournament experience of playing 10 to 15 minutes about once every hour or two. So the ideal way to practice is if you have like an hour in a day that you want to practice, and obviously if you're practicing more than that, that's fantastic. So if you have an hour in a day you want to practice, I think you should split that into 4 15-minute sessions that you split up throughout your day. And what you do is you just show up and you go, okay, I'm going to do... it doesn't have to be ultra structured, but you go, okay, I'm going to do wave dashes for a few minutes. You wave dash for, obviously after every like 2 or 3 minutes, take like a 30-second break. You don't just want to be pressing buttons the whole time because a lot of times like there's space between games. Yeah. In like a normal tournament. So after every like 3 minutes or so, take a few seconds, take 30 seconds, just calm down, and then you go back into it. And so basically what you're doing is you're training yourself that like, okay, at a moment's notice, I need to be able to hop into this game, and I need to be able to do clean wave dashes, clean wave lands, and clean late aerials. And so you just show up, you do a little tech skill practice, okay, 10 or 15 minutes have passed, and then you go do your thing. And if you want to put in more time, I would suggest watching VODs. So, like, watch VODs, study the VODs, study your own VODs. I think that's really useful. But in terms of, like, actually improving at tech skill and speed, those little short bursts are, like, that is imitating how the game will work for you in tournament. And so that is how you should be practicing. And then when you actually show up to a tournament and you're just called over to a TV to play, you've done this hundreds of times because you've done it, 6 or 7 times a day. Like if somebody's really dedicated, I'll just say like every like 2 hours, do like 15 minutes.
Okay.
Like just 15 minutes. You just do your little tech skill, and you go back to your life. A couple hours later, you show up, do it again, and your brain will just crunch all the timing down like perfectly into like habits from doing that.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, exactly what my music teachers would tell me, just in like music terms. Okay. Yeah, I can do that for sure.
So, I am down to do another one in a week if you want to do that. And after that we can sort of decide if we want to keep the weekly thing going or set up like a monthly plan or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But I think this went really well, and I'll be uploading it to YouTube fairly soon. So in like a day or two, or maybe today. So, anyway, it was good talking to you, man. Hope you have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you so much.